right, well, good afternoon. I want to start by thanking you all for being here so that we can give an update to our city and our community about this past weekend's snowstorm and the snow removal efforts that remain underway. As we know, this is the most snow that Providence has experienced in several years. The added complexity was and it remains the extreme temperatures that we're continuing to experience. This storm has required more resources and effort than any winter storm in Providence in at least 4 years. Back in 2022, there was a storm of this magnitude, but it wasn't followed by a week full of 10-degree temperatures. And so in addition to the snowfall, we've had the additional challenge of nothing melting throughout the week. The timing and severity of this storm has made it very challenging, and yet we remain hard at work. I understand and have heard loud and clear the frustration of our residents, of our business owners, and of everyone trying to get in and around the city of Providence. I want people to know that we hear that frustration. I take those concerns and criticism very seriously, and we have not let up on our efforts to continue to clean up and to continue to make the city more easy to navigate, easier to park, easier to get to work, easier to get your kids to school, and all of the other things that have to happen for our families to continue to move forward. From early Sunday morning and throughout this week, our crews have been hard at work. Since the onset of this storm, Department of Public Works employees have worked approximately 2,300 hours. We are working around the clock. We are using every resource that's available to us, and we have not stopped. As a reminder of how we prioritize, at the height of the storm, our priority is always safety. So hospital routes, main roads, hills, because you can have accidents on the hills in the city, and highway overpasses, which freeze more quickly. And that's what we stayed focused on Sunday. On to Monday and Tuesday, we started to focus on neighborhood side streets and made sure that they were safely passable. But I understand and clearly have seen in every corner of the city as I've been out and about that many of those streets are down to one lane or are impeded by cars that are parked, trash barrels that are out, and can be very difficult to navigate, and it's incredibly frustrating. And so after that phase, the Monday, Tuesday side street piece, then we started to focus on widening streets and actually removing snow. This is the first time in many years that we've had to actually remove snow. And hopefully every day people have started to notice that main corridors have become better because overnight we've been removing snow, hauling it away. Snow removal efforts, separate from snow plowing efforts, generally require us to close a street, which is why we do it at night. If we were doing that 24/7, we'd be shutting off city streets, only compounding people's frustration. We have, this week to date, done snow removal from most of downtown, Kennedy Plaza, to ensure that RIPTA can function well, Washington Street, Atwells, Wayland Square, Thayer Street, Meeting Street, Broadway, Empire, Chestnut, Thayer, and we have several operations underway. Last night they started Memorial Boulevard. They will finish that today. Fountain Street is being worked on as we speak. The Jewelry District is slated for snow removal next, and we are using every snow removal vendor that we can find. We are using all of them. As folks know, we announced earlier, we're using this city lots to haul that snow away. As of last night, we had already moved 300 truckloads of snow away. And we will continue to do so until such time as we meet our constituents' satisfaction and expectations. It's important to acknowledge that at a storm like this, with extreme cold like this, what some of the trade-offs are. It is clear that people are calling at this point most regularly to have their streets widened or to have parking lanes opened. When we do that, inevitably, we will either bury someone's end of their driveway that they worked really hard to clear, or push snow back onto a sidewalk that somebody worked really hard to clear. there is no other way to do this. And those are the trade-offs that we're trying to navigate as we go. So sometimes that means they need to have removal as opposed to plowing, which can be done much faster. Sometimes means we have to go slower or use snow blowers, which we have, but we do not have hundreds of snow blow operators in the city of Providence. And so we hear that frustration, but there are trade-offs to all of these decisions. I was driving around all morning this morning. We've been prioritizing neighborhoods in advance of their garbage day so that we can ensure that their trash gets picked up. But when you have a street with even one car parked on it or trash barrels parked on it, our snow plows can't effectively widen that street. And the trade-off with lifting the parking ban was people can't get to work if we still have a parking ban in place. Teachers can't park around a school building. Most of our schools do not have lots, and so our teachers park on off-street parking. And we needed schools open again because parents have to get to work and kids need to be in the classroom. So these are the challenges that we're facing, and they're not meant to be excuses, they're just meant to be explanations so that our residents know some of the complications that the folks here at DPW, Parks Department, and Department of Public Works, Public Property are working on. We continue to have open lines of communications at 311. Earlier on in the storm, we know that the voicemail box got clogged, the phone lines were overwhelmed. We have caught up on all of that. 311 is open, the voicemail box is clear, the website is working, and so you are still encouraged and welcome to submit items that require our attention through 311 through any of those methods, the phone number, the email, or the web-based form for submission. We have caught up on the backlog because of the overwhelming amount of response we heard from our residents. And so what I want the people of Providence to know is that I know that they're not satisfied with the quality of the city streets right now. I'm not satisfied with the quality of the city streets right now. But we remain hard at work. We haven't stopped. There are 20 plows out on the street as we speak right now. And we've gone back to working 3 shifts, rotating drivers after they had worked dozens of hours in a row. And then primarily overnight, we have engaged as many snow haulers as we can, and we'll continue to actually remove snow from places where additional plowing won't really move the needle. Happy to take your questions.
I know property owners are supposed to clear the sidewalks in front of their buildings, but obviously a lot of them have not done so. How many tickets have you given for that?
I have to get back to you on that. It is not practical for us to ticket every homeowner in Providence who haven't shoveled. But we prioritize ticketing on key routes where we know there's a lot of walkers, people trying to get to work. We also have some problem spots and sort of repeat offenders who have regularly not done their part, particularly some commercial property owners. So that's how we prioritize that. The ticket writers are employees here at DPW, and so every person who's writing a ticket is a person who's not writing a plow. And that's another one of these trade-offs that we have to deal with. I will say, on the enforcement front, however, I made mention earlier about how we still have cars that are parked, which makes it, in many cases, some of them have been parked since Saturday, because you can see them buried in snow, which makes it difficult for us to widen certain streets. The Providence Police Department, when this is their responsibility, is out ticketing those cars, and if it is possible, we will tow those cars. In terms of the parking ban, we had pretty good compliance, but it is often the case, particularly on some of our narrow side streets, that just one car left behind can make it impossible to get curb to curb. We towed over 300 cars at the height of the storm. We used every one of our tow vendors, and there's multiple tow vendors, and they all have their own lots to where they tow. Most of our vendors filled their lots up. It would not have been possible to tow more cars, it only would have been possible to tow a few more cars than we towed. Almost all of their lots were full.
Just to finish the thought on the sidewalk,
yeah.
If you're not really doing a ton of ticketing, if the
In some cases we have, and there's been some real acts of compassion and graciousness, primarily from this department and the Parks Department, who does a lot on sidewalks also in partnership with DPW. In the height of the storm, we received phone calls in the day after, in the days that followed, through either 311 or to the non-emergency number at Providence Police. We received calls from an individual who needed to receive healthcare treatment in the house, and we went out and shoveled her sidewalk. A couple healthcare providers who are essential personnel that needed to get to the hospital, and we went and dug them out also. And so in some certain circumstances, we will do that. That is not scalable or sustainable, but the people here have big hearts, and when we get a call like that, we do the best we can to respond.
Was the city unprepared for this level of snow removal? Were you hoping it would melt?
We engaged every plow we could get our hands on. Every city plow, which is approximately 60 plows, was out on the street, and frankly is still out on the streets. And then every vendor we could hire, we hired. We rely on a combination of both. We have about 60 city plows. We had over 30 vendors respond with a minimum of one truck. Some brought multiple trucks. And our city vendors are paid more than nearly any other community in Rhode Island, so it's not that we don't pay enough. And there's just only so many vendors to go around. And over the years, and this is a change from back in 2022, the last time we had this much snow, the face and equipment of these vendors have changed. It's more pickup trucks with plows and fewer 6 or 8 wheelers that can really move heavy snow. And so our vendors can only be used in certain areas because they just can't push in a landscaping truck the same amount of snow that some of the city's trucks can push. But there were no resources that we had access to that we didn't use. We used it all. It was just a question of the volume of snow and then absolutely zero assistance from Mother Nature in the days that followed, and that everything remained on the ground, and there was almost no melting other than the center of the street where you see bare pavement, but any of the snow piles are not shrinking.
So is it a lack of staff or a lack of equipment to get the job done?
We could have used more of both, to be sure, but you can only use what you can use. If we had more vendors willing to come work for us, we would have hired them. We had the budget for them. There's just only so many vendors who were willing to come do this work. They're competing for jobs in other cities and towns and for the state itself. We hired as many vendors as we could and pay them more than almost anywhere else in Rhode Island in an attempt to get as many vendors as we could. Every employee at the Department of Public Works has been working and continues to be at work. And so in any given storm or any given setup, you always could use more, but you can only use what you have, and we used everything we have.
Are you still actively trying to get more vendors in to clean up the remaining?
We would welcome any new vendor. Unfortunately, it is not even the end of January yet, and we expect it will snow some more. And so vendors can reach out to the City of Providence if they'd like to be on our vendor list, and we will enroll them.
Want to let them know how much you pay?
I don't. Do you know the hour? We could get back to you what the hourly rate is. I don't have that.
Depends on the truck.
It depends on the truck on how much we pay, but sure, we would be happy to continue to enroll vendors. But this is a process we go through every year. We start in the fall enrolling vendors. We advertise. We recruit. This isn't a passive process for us. We are actively recruiting and engaging in trying to enroll vendors to come remove snow for the City of Providence. It's a harder job. If you're working for the State Department of Transportation, you're working on big, wide, mostly straight roads. When you're working in the City of Providence, you're working on hills, you're working on tight neighborhood side streets, you're dodging cars and trash barrels. It's a harder job. That's why we pay a lot. But this is the challenge that we're up against, and it's not an excuse. It's just what we have to do every day, and we do it. And generally speaking, we do it to a satisfactory level. This storm has not been satisfactory, but we haven't stopped yet.
What is the city budget for snow removal, snow cleanup, and how much did this storm take up?
The city's snow removal budget is $750,000. We don't have a total on this storm yet. We're happy to share it with you. We are not over budget. I will say historically, in years past, we've never, in my administration, we've never gone over the snow budget. In historical years in the city, I'm aware of, there have been years when we've gone over the snow budget, but the city has never cut back on snow removal services because they're over budget. It means you have to make cuts in other things in order to balance the budget by the end of the year. That's how we would do it as well.
Did either the budget or just the number of vendors you have contracted shrink over the past few years because it hasn't snowed that much?
The budget has shrunk a little bit over the last couple of years, but as I said, if we had 5 more of these storms, we would still do a full-scale deployment, and if we run over budget in this area, we will make cuts in other areas in order to balance our budget. So I'm not worried about that. The nature of our vendor engagement has changed over the years. It is harder to get them, and the equipment that they're bringing is less useful for large snow operations. I don't want to disrespect them. We rely on our vendors and we appreciate our vendors. But the value of a 6-wheeler that can move 6 or 12 inches of snow is very different than a landscape truck with a plow that struggles with more than 3 or 4 inches.
Should the city buy more plows?
The city should buy more plows, which is why I've done exactly that. In budget 18 months ago, we made a major investment in plows here in DPW. Like so many things in the world right now, there is a lag time in production, and so those new plows will be ready for next winter's snow season. But that budget decision was made well over a year ago. But we can't force the factory to churn out large trucks any faster than they do. But the city has already appropriated, and I've already prioritized this investment, and that will be ready for the winter of 26-27.
And just one more thing, do you have a message for business owners? I've heard from a lot of them who say, either they haven't been able to open because all the parking spots are filled with snow, or just that they're open but they're not getting any customers because all the parking spots are full of snow.
Yeah, hopefully they're seeing day-by-day progress. When I read off the snow removal locations, these are commercial areas that have been prioritized. Not exclusive to commercial areas, but prioritization. Wayland Square, Atwells, Wickenden Street, Washington Street, Broadway, Westminster, those are all commercial areas.
I've heard a lot of complaints from Hope Street businesses.
Hope Street got some help last night from this is how much of an all-hands-on-deck operation this is. We have a sewer crew. Over the last couple of years, we've had more issues with flooding than we've had with snow. And so it all sort of depends on what season we find ourselves in. But our sewer crew was actually out on Hope Street last night with a backhoe doing snow removal and then hauling, and then Hope Street's going to get more attention overnight tonight. As I mentioned, when we do snow removal, in almost every circumstance, we have to shut the street down. And it's not going to help our businesses to close Hope Street in the middle of the day. So we do those operations overnight, but we're putting as many resources towards them as we can.
Now back to those sidewalks,
Yeah.
the residential ones, that maybe ones in school zones.
Yeah.
If the residents don't clear that out, does the city have an obligation to step in and clear that because it's in a school zone?
So the city will enforce or has the opportunity to enforce the residents' responsibility through ticketing, but we work closely. There's several people involved in school areas. The school department, which of course is not run by the city of Providence right now, has a maintenance vendor who is the janitorial staff for all their buildings. They're responsible for snow removal efforts. Additionally, including sidewalks. Additionally, the Providence Parks Department and the Providence Department of Public Property, which maintains all of our city buildings, they also have snow blower crews and take a lot of responsibility for sidewalk clearance. So they're working closely with that private vendor to the school department to look at sidewalks around our schools, and because we all have an interest in making sure our kids get to school safely, they're not stopping right at the property line. And if they need to snow blow a next couple of houses or the next apartment building, they of course will do so.
Are you doing anything differently to prepare than you were 1 week ago
Yeah, so we've got a close eye on this weekend storm, and when you've gone through a snow operation like this, we have to work really hard to make sure all of our equipment is being repaired. It's not just hard on individuals, it's hard on machines to do this sort of work, and so we break plow blades, and salt and sand spreaders jam up, and so our maintenance operation is hard at work to make sure that everything's ready and operational for the next round. We're also in touch with our vendors to make sure that they're ready to sign up and do it again and get out here. It's one of the reasons we have such a focus on snow removal right now, because we, as everyone knows, just like a homeowner who has struggled with trying to figure out where to put the snow, we too are figuring out that if we needed to plow another 6 inches, we need to get some of this snow off the street, and so that's why we're so hard at work on snow removal right now. But we've got all of those things happening in advance of this weekend storm, and we're working closely with our Department of Emergency Management, which does our weather tracking for us, and are prepared. I will tell you, separate from snow operation, which is what everyone's focused on right now, understandably so, we are also very concerned about the extreme cold and the potential harmful health effects that might have on vulnerable populations and others. And 6 degrees with a wind chill of -10 this morning, and those type of temperatures are going to persist for the next couple of days. And so PEMA, along with our Department of Health and Human Services, is also very focused on making sure that residents are safe through this extreme cold, separate from the snow, but potentially deadly.
Back to that removal, where does the snow go?
Yeah, so right now we've been using a site on Prairie Avenue, which is a city-owned site. That has additional capacity, so we're not full there yet, but we've got some backup sites as well. We're putting them on city-owned property. Back in the old days, they used to dump it in the river. They don't let you do that anymore, and so we scoop it up and truck it off to a city-owned parking lot or a city-owned redevelopment site that we're not worried about the environmental impact of the salt and sand and such, and we've got plenty of capacity right now in that site.
Mayor, some of your critics say that you should not have gone to Washington, D.C. for that annual conference because of the condition of the city right now. What would be your response to that?
Yeah, I know that people expect to see their mayor in their neighborhood, particularly in tough times. Unfortunately, we're living through an environment where there are multiple crises going on at once, and we need to be able to handle all of those things. I went to D.C. for 48 hours for the annual meeting of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, primarily because it's the first and the best time this entire year that we will all be together to talk about the impact of immigration enforcement on our cities. And so overwhelming majority of the time there was sharing best practices and information and tools and tactics from cities such as the mayor of Minneapolis, who was there, and the surrounding Minneapolis suburbs, and the mayor of Portland, who's been dealing with this, the mayor of Los Angeles, who's been dealing with this, the mayor of Denver, who's been dealing with this. We had the opportunity to, at a very tactical mayor-to-mayor level, talk about what we would do if ICE comes to our community. That's a conversation that needed to be had. I wished I could have been in 2 places at once.
What did you learn from those mayors?
Yeah, there's been a real, I think there's been a real tone and tactic shift. And you've probably seen it from me here in Providence. A year ago, actually just over a year ago when this administration started, a lot of us, and myself included, were keeping our head down in an attempt to protect vulnerable members of our community. And that was the right decision at the time, not knowing exactly what this administration's enforcement priorities would be. I won't say why total consensus, but there's been a broad shift that, one, because we've witnessed now for a year that enforcement priorities, locations, seems to have nothing to do with anything other than political grudges or retribution from the administration. And so, quote, keeping your head down maybe does, maybe doesn't keep you off the hit list. 2, we've been so appalled and offended by the lawlessness that we've seen and heartbroken by the harm that's been done, that there was a real sense of solidarity of keeping our head down is no longer the right move. The best way to stand up to this action is through collective action and safety in numbers. And so there is, I think, a new push amongst cities that can to speak up and speak out. And I think the people in Providence have seen me go through that evolution over the last year.
Are you going to go to the protest later today?
I don't know if I'll be at the protest today, but I've been at many of the protests run by Indivisible, which have been a really productive and safe and appropriate place and way to protest. Some of the protests in the city I don't go to because there's other messages there that I don't condone and some of the tactics that I don't condone, so I'm not sure if I'll be there today. But I do think that residents should speak up and speak out and do so peacefully. On the other tactical front, we've had a lot of conversation about how to appropriately coordinate and plan for, and like with an emergency management lens, walk through the steps of what would happen if a mass deployment comes to your community, and some of those details are best kept private, but there is a very real, tangible task at hand to make sure that we're prepared in case Providence is up on that list or any of our other cities around the country.
Is there any reason to believe that the Trump administration is planning to target Providence at this point?
No, but there's no reason to believe that they were going to target Portland, Maine either. And so I think that's the frustration where we've all found ourselves. For mid-sized cities like Providence, I might have assumed a year ago that we wouldn't be on the list. We saw a large-scale deployment in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in Denver. And not that we didn't have solidarity and empathy for what those folks were going through. I think for those of us here, Los Angeles is a very different place than Providence, Rhode Island. I think, well, I'd never come to Providence. But when you see a widespread deployment in Lewiston, Maine, or Portland, Maine, it clearly gives the impression that none of us are safe and that any of us could be next, and so we need to be prepared.
Now, Mayor, you ran on a campaign of keeping a clean and a safe city.
Yeah.
Are the conditions of the roads, is that a failure in that campaign promise?
Listen, I've heard, the judge of that is my constituents, and I've heard loud and clear from my constituents that they are not satisfied with the quality of their streets at this moment, and therefore I'm not satisfied with them, which is why we haven't stopped, and we will keep at it until we reach that level of satisfaction.
If you could go back a week and do it all over again, would you have done anything differently?
You know, we're already talking about that and trying to answer that question. So many pieces of this operation, and honestly of this job, involve trade-offs, and trying to balance those trade-offs is the most difficult question. If we had had the parking ban in place for another 24 hours, we could have made more progress. But the trade-off for that means that schools would have been closed another day, and kids wouldn't have been at work, and many parents in this city wouldn't have been able to go to work because their kids wouldn't be at school. And honestly, in our city, when a kid doesn't go to school, they might not get three meals that day. And so I'm always putting pressure on to keep the schools open because of that reality. We could have shut the city down for another day or two. We could have made much better progress. But there's real impact to families when we do that. And so those are the difficult trade-offs that we have to wrestle with. Those are the difficult decisions that have to be made. But we do always try to learn from times when we fall short. I think we've fallen short to date. We're not done yet, but we've fallen short to date. And so we will certainly be doing plenty of time asking ourselves what we should have done differently. As I said, this winter's not over, and I hope to be Providence's mayor for many years to come, and there will be many more winters to come.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.